With a mission to deliver fiscally responsible, highly dependable services to the citizens of our community and the region. With integrity and professionalism, this is the City of Albany Commission meeting with Mayor Bo Duro, John Howard, Ward 1, Mayor Pro Tem Matt Fuller, Ward 2, BJ Fletcher, Ward 3, Chad Warbington, Ward 4, Bob Langstaff, Ward 5, Demetrius Young, Ward 6, with Interim City Manager Stephen Carter, City Clerk Sonia Tolbert, and City Attorney Nathan Davis. This is the City of Albany Commission meeting.
Good evening. Welcome to the special call meeting. It's April 27th. At 5 o'clock, we have two items on the agenda. If we could call have the reading of the call, Ms. Kelly.
Dear Mayor and Commissioners, there will be a special call committee of the whole work session virtual meeting on Tuesday, April 27, 2021 at 5 o'clock p.m. in room 100 of the Government Center building located at 222 Pine Avenue, Albany, Georgia. The purpose of the meeting is to discuss the following resolution. 1. Accept award of planning grant through the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery CDBG-DR program. 2. Executive recruitment consultant selection regarding city manager's position. Sincerely, Stephen Carter, interim city manager, and the mayor, commissioners Howard and Fletcher signed the call, and the others were notified via email.
Madam Clerk, could we call the roll?
Ward 1.
Here.
Ward 2. Ward 3. Ward 4.
Ward 4's here.
Ward 5.
Here.
Ward 6.
Here.
Mayor.
The mayor is here. The first item on the agenda is a recommendation to accept a grant of $855,000 to identify outstanding storm-related problems and other code-related issues in furtherance of developing a comprehensive property assessment and resiliency plan. Mr. Forgy, can you tell us about this?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. We received notice that we were awarded or will be awarded a grant from the Department of Community Affairs. It's a community development block grant for disaster recovery, specifically for planning. And this grant for $855,000 will be used to develop a comprehensive inventory of properties within the city. The main purpose of it is to identify any needs resulting from the storms that we've experienced over the last few years. But we're going to use it as an opportunity to do a comprehensive inventory of all the property within the city and look at various factors about that property, the condition, take new photographs of it. We'll look at structural issues, the height, whether it's in a floodplain, whether it's in a historic district, to put together a comprehensive property inventory that can be used for a number of things. And we haven't fully fleshed out what the survey will do or what information will be gathered. We're going to set up a stakeholder committee that will involve different departments within both the city and county and see what their data needs are, and then we'll reach out, we'll do an RFP for a consultant to get someone who can do this on-the-ground survey, and then we'll develop a database. And from that information, we'll also develop a couple resiliency plans, or a resiliency plan with a couple facets to it, to look at how we can move forward addressing the remaining storm damage property, if we find issues within the floodplain that we can address, to put together plans to address issues of resiliency moving forward for the city. And it's a grant for a 2-year period.
Thank you, Mr. Forgy.
And there's no match required.
Any questions, Mr. Howard?
Paul, you did say this would be this is a 2-year period for this grant, right?
Yes, sir. It hasn't started yet, but I think it's from August.
Of this year, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it would be dispensed throughout the city and the county?
The county received a similar grant, and we're coordinating with them, but their data will go into the database, but this is just for the city.
Just for the city, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But the end result will be for the city and county.
Mm-hmm. So you said it would also talk about how we can prepare for the last three storms or whatever?
The idea is to look at the damage that's remaining from the storms and figure out what we can do as a community to better resist storms in the future.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Warmington?
No question.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No question.
Commissioner Young?
No further questions.
Mr. Walker, just a few questions. Now, would there be any recommendation of, like, after the 94 flood, you had the buyout plan, and so many homes, FEMA basically paid, I think, tax value or whatever. If some property is particularly problematic, would there be any kind of recommendation?
Potentially, but that is usually addressed through FEMA. They are aware of properties through the flood insurance program. They're aware of repetitive loss properties, and periodically they offer to buy out those properties anyway. But something like that could happen where we through this survey, we identify a neighborhood that has a lot of storm issues for one reason or another. Maybe it's low-lying or something. And it could be that, well, then we'll have the data available to know if that's something the city would want to do to buy that out or not. And it would help us with grants in the future as well, because then we have these areas identified in advance. So if there's a grant available for more storm recovery, we'll have the information ready to begin with.
And what do you mean by existing damage?
There's still a lot of existing damage that exists that has not been repaired from both the tornadoes and Hurricane Michael. There's quite a number of structures out there that still have damage. And we want to differentiate that from just normal damage or lack of maintenance, but identify where storm damage still exists.
So if you have residual damage from the storms or the hurricane, we're out of time to ask for funding to renovate those properties, aren't we?
Well, no. The county and city have been awarded funding to address those issues, and Ms. Georgia Collier-Bowling will address the City Commission, I believe, at your next work session to explain the program that the county is running, where there is money available to address these issues.
So this survey could actually identify those properties.
Right. It will help identify those. Mm-hmm.
We could connect the property owners with the available funding.
That's right. The program is self-identified for the most part. People will come in that have damage, but this survey will identify everything, even if it's a vacant structure or the property owners are absentee.
In this context, what do you mean by resiliency?
Resiliency, to survive another event better in the future. So a number of things. These aren't necessarily things that would be implemented, but there are higher standards of construction that could be required. Some, obviously, in high winds, roofs are damaged, and some communities have implemented higher requirements for new roofs that keep them from being blown off in storms, which saves a lot of money in the long run. It costs a little bit more, but it saves money because people can live in their houses after a storm. Their property doesn't get damaged because rain gets in. So that's one example. There are lots of houses that are built in the floodplain or structures that are built in the floodplain and may not have the proper requirements if there is a flood, so we can identify those if they need flood vents, things like that. So in the case of another flood, they will be more resilient, and they won't have to be bought out because they'll be able to resist the flood.
Thank you, Mr. Forgy.
You're welcome.
With that, the chair would entertain a motion.
So moved for approval.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Commissioner Howard.
No further discussion?
Commissioner Fletcher, are you with us?
I'm here. No further discussion.
Commissioner Warburton.
Nothing further.
Commissioner Langstaff.
Nothing further.
Commissioner Young.
Nothing further.
Ms. Kelly, could you call for a voice vote?
Yes.
Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Mayor.
Mayor votes yes. The next item on the special call meeting is consider the responses to the request for proposal for a recruitment consultant to assist in the city manager search. Ms. Fields, you with us?
Yes, I am.
Sir.
His RFP was advertised on March 26th, and it came back on April 9th. I advertised in all the normal places, and I also did a Google search for government search consultants, and we directly solicited 14 of those. We got 3 responses. All 3 are quality firms. There's really not a whole lot of difference between the 3. I liked one better than the other 2, but like I said, all 3 can do the job. So basically, it's whatever you decide.
Commissioner Howard, any questions for Ms. Fields?
Ms. Field, so these were the 3 you said that fell out the hat, and all 3 of them are capable of doing the job, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's it, Mr. Mayor. I'll come back and ask you a question.
Thank you. Commissioner Fletcher?
No questions.
Commissioner Worthington?
Yeah, Ms. Fields, I was just looking over the fee proposals. Are those all fixed fees, or are they based on time and material or expenses?
All 3 of them gave you a not to exceed, which was kind of funny because it said not to exceed, and then it gave you the other things that weren't included, which to me does not make it a not to exceed. However, they gave you an amount, and all of them were in the same ballpark, but some of them also included pricing for specific items if you wanted more than what they included in their not to exceed fee.
So part of these proposals, we can, it's kind of like a la carte. We can accept part of it, none of it, all of it. Looks like some gave more of a breakout than others, but so the way it was bid is the fees are what they are based on what we choose to use them for. So, okay.
That's correct. Basically, you can look at it like a construction bid. That the not to exceed that they gave you was their base bid. And these are the items that are included in the base bid. And then they gave you, if you want these other services, this is how much they cost.
Okay, that's it, Mayor. Thanks.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No question.
Commissioner Young?
No questions.
And Ms. Fields, has the city ever used any of these firms before?
Yes, one of them, we've used SGR before.
And your personal preference?
My personal preference was GovHR.
Okay. Is there a motion or any further? You want to go around the table again?
Well, are we voting on these 3, or what are we doing? Just more discussion?
As you wish, that's on the agenda, isn't it, to vote on it, or is it on the agenda to discuss?
I believe it's on there to vote on.
That's what I thought.
I make a motion to vote for GovHR.
Mr. Fletcher, can we go around the table?
Oh, I thought you were just looking for motion. Yes, sir.
Okay. Any further questions, Commissioner Howard? Or
So, Mr. Mayor, I stepped out for a minute. We're going to vote on one of the 3 tonight?
that was on the special call, I understand, so.
Okay. So, after we make the vote tonight, would it be that we will let this person do the advertising for the city manager, right?
Ms. Fields, can you answer that question?
Once you decide on which firm you want, I notify the firm, and they get with the commission to develop the brochure, get all the information they need from you, and then they'll start advertising.
So Ms. Fields, so will we get a chance before, when we vote as firm, to actually see the resume, the qualification, and the pay?
You will be deciding on what they'll give you a recommendation, as each one of the firms laid out their process, and in each one of them, the process was that they were gonna meet with the commission to get the commission's wishes before they put out the brochure and started looking for candidates for you.
That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No further questions.
Commissioner Worthington?
Yeah, I had, I guess, another option, and I don't know if Ms. Wright is on the phone, but one option is that we could choose not to use any of the three and do an internal, not internal, but do an internal process to solicit and accept, just like you put a normal job posting out. So I had a short conversation with Wright today just around, you know, we hire executive positions, directors, you know, different levels in the city all the time, and we put postings out, receive resumes. The thing about in today's world with LinkedIn, all the different sites that are out there, the city could easily get the word out for a city manager position and not spend $25,000. And so you kind of got to think, what are these folks bringing to the table that we couldn't do ourselves? So, Ms. Wright, are you on the phone there? Or, yeah, there you are, Virgil. So you just sent me a message and it said roughly, if we wanted to put this thing out for a national solicitation, using our own tools, our own subscriptions, everything that we're already doing for lots of different positions, you're saying it'd be around $500 to $800 to get it out.
That's correct. That's just using some of our external links to recruiting sites. We currently have our contract set up with GMA, ICMA, and we also have GLGPA, which is just, you know, governmental sites that we've used before to post for positions.
So in your professional experience, do you believe that we would get the same quality candidates by using those tools as we would using a recruiting firm?
Well, of course, using a recruiting firm has most, you know, direct contact with those type of positions when you're recruiting at this type of level of executive. We've not, in the past 13 years since I've been here, done it in-house solely for a city manager position, but we certainly can use the tools we have. I wouldn't be able to speak on the quality of employees that we would get to apply for this position because we've not done this in the past 13 years since I've been here, recruited for a city manager. We've always used a headhunter to apply and get those positions and applicants, and screen them, vet them, and then present those to the Board of Commissioners.
Okay. The only other thing included in that 500 to 800, that is just to get the posting out. I see in one of our bidders, they're bidding about $400 to $500 to do a comprehensive background check, which I would assume we would, I guess we could internally do all, if, you know, once we get to a selection of the top 3 or 2 or 5, whatever, we would need to solicit help in doing the whole extensive background check on an individual.
Sure, we would do the background check, we would do the drug screening, we would do the credit check. I mean, we have the resources to do whatever the will of the commission is.
Okay. Okay, I just put that out there, Mayor, as another option. You know, I think one of the things of hiring one of these firms is we may never see the 20 resumes or the 50 resumes. Obviously, they're going to whittle it down to the 5, or, you know, and so they're really You know, we're kind of hiring a filter, if you will. You know, we want to hire a filter that, you know, cuts down on some of our involvement, certainly can, but if we want to be more involved and put our own posting out, then certainly we could save around $20,000 and do it that way, so.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No comment.
Commissioner Young?
Yes, sir. I guess I'm thinking that we probably need to get some type of separation in this process. One of the separations is, of course, between ourselves and the commission and the process, and then staff as the staff and the process. We want to give ourselves a chance to, you know, kind of evaluate this objectively, and I think that's the biggest value in having an outside firm that, you know, all things being considered, in hiring a new person, that, you know, we don't, you know, somehow let the process be, you know, colored with the lens of our own perspective as commissioners and also staff. So I'll just leave it at that as far as my comment. I just think we need to have some separation in the selection based on those relationships.
Well, I mean, personally, I think this is fundamentally different than any other hiring because this is one of the 5 or 6 positions that the city commission actually does the hiring. And so I believe we should have a consultant. Commissioner Warmington's point is well taken. What if there's somebody in the mix that is an excellent candidate, but he or she doesn't have, in the view of the consultant, the requisite experience or some other factor? But Ms. Fields, we could expand the number of applicants, couldn't we?
Sure. Like I said, they'll meet with you and find out what it is you want to do. And if you want to see more than the applicants that they're telling you they'll bring you, it comes at a cost, but they'll do it.
What I was really referring to is, let's say typically the consultant says these are the 5 best candidates. Couldn't we say we want to see the 10 best candidates?
Absolutely. If I remember right, I read one of them said that they would bring you the 12 best, and then
Yes.
you would whittle it down to 5.
Yeah, that's what I would personally prefer. But with that, any further questions or comments?
So I guess there's no chance for us to talk to either of these 3, or I guess if we vote tonight, there's no chance of talking to the 3.
Well, Commissioner, I think this is important enough. If you want to table it, you know, we're here to vote on it, but I mean, I certainly don't want to frustrate if
I would actually move to table it.
Yeah, I thought last time you talked about doing a called meeting next meeting to actually vote on it. I thought that's what we talked about.
you might be correct. I mean, okay.
And today was just a day of discussion and to get it out. And,
okay.
I think we need to at least get it down to 2, so it's not kind of a, with 3, if we voted on it tonight, it'd be kind of, I guess, disjointed, if that's the word to use, but.
Okay. There might have been some miscommunication, and quite frankly, it might be my mistake, because it seems that is what I said, that we would have a special call meeting to discuss the process. And Ms. Fields, I was hoping, was going to sort of walk us through what we needed to do. And with that, I mean, we're certainly table, but before is that motion on the floor, though, Commissioner Young?
Yeah, I'll make a formal motion to table this. Did you say until the until the next,
Next meet, it's
Next
next week.
meeting.
Yeah, next Tuesday is fine. Okay, but we'd have to have a special call meeting, we understand, so we could vote on it. Okay. That's the motion?
yes.
All right, is there a second to the motion to table?
Yeah, I would second it.
Okay, Mr. Davis, if you have a motion to second or a motion to table, there's no further discussion, right? Okay, with that, we would, if you call the roll, Ms. Kelly?
Ward 1,
That's the motion to table, right?
Yes.
To time certain next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday.
Would that be a special call meeting?
Yes.
Okay, I'm in favor of that.
Okay.
Ward 3,
Will we vote on it next Tuesday, Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yes, I'll table it.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yeah.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Mayor.
Mayor votes yes, and I apologize for the misunderstanding. I do believe that was the intent originally, was to discuss it tonight and vote on it next Tuesday.
Yep. Mayor, I would like to build on Commissioner Young's idea of maybe eliminating one of these tonight. I don't know if everybody's prepared. That way maybe we can have them on the phone Tuesday morning to have only 2 to vote on. If everybody's prepared to eliminate one tonight, or if not,
I'm
we
not,
can have,
I'm not prepared to eliminate one tonight.
Ms. Fields, do you think we could have representatives of these 3 firms available next Tuesday?
Sure could.
Okay.
If you want all 3 of them, I'll have them on the phone.
Okay, well, is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Ms. Fields, if you'll do that for us. Now, I'm sorry about the confusion, and I think I'm to blame for it. Oh, no, I didn't put it on the vote for it, but okay. With that, is there any further business to come before the commission at special call meeting? If not that, we will stand adjourned. Good evening. Welcome to the April 2021 regular meeting of the Albany City Commission. Tonight, we're honored to have Pastor John Spencer of Sherwood Baptist Church with us to provide the invocation. If you would come down, Reverend Spencer, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for the privilege, Mr. Mayor. Let's pray. Dear Lord, we come to you tonight and we thank you for the freedoms we share in our country, in our state, and Lord, in the city of Albany. Thank you for the men and the women who serve us in our local government. Father, they're one of the best representatives of our great republic. Father, give them wisdom as they decide issues in tonight's meeting and in the days to come. Help them to steward the trust of their wards in this city well. Father, we are not a uniform people, but we are one people together in one city. I ask for unity of purpose in our diversity. Father, we lift up our leaders to you, for Mayor Duro, for Mayor Pro Tem Fuller, for Commissioner Fletcher, Commissioner Warbington, Commissioner Howard, Commissioner Young, and Commissioner Langstaff. Father, you have given us these leaders. And Father, we ask that, Lord, you give them wisdom. Your word says the beginning of wisdom is to acquire wisdom, and with all you're acquiring, to gain understanding. Praise her, and she will exalt you. She will honor you if you embrace her. Father, I pray you lead them in wisdom and understanding in every matter before them tonight and in the days to come, Lord. We thank you for our city, Father. We love it, Lord, and we ask you to make it flourish. Father, you have raised up our authorities, so we thank you for them, and we ask you to bless them and use your servants in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Mr. Howard, you lead us in the pledge. To the flag, United States of America, one nation, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. Thank you, Reverend Spencer. The next item on the agenda, okay, I guess we could call the roll.
Ward 1.
Here.
Ward 2. Ward 2. Ward 3. Ward 3. Ward 4.
Here.
Ward 5. Ward 5. Ward 6.
Here.
Mayor.
The mayor is here. Could we check and see? I think obviously Commissioner Fletcher and Commissioner Langstaff were with us earlier, so we might have some technical difficulties.
Hey, Commissioner Fuller here, mine just came on.
I'm here, Mayor.
Yes.
And then Commissioner Fuller is here as well.
Is Commissioner Langstaff with us? Okay. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved that the minutes of the previous meeting be.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Commissioner Howard?
No discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No discussion.
Commissioner Warmington?
No discussion.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No discussion. I was muted before I figured it out.
Commissioner Young?
No
Red
discussion.
button. Could we call the roll, Mr. Howard?
Ward 1.
Here.
Ward 2.
Yes.
Ward 3.
Here.
Well, this is the vote for the approval of the minutes. Ward 4.
Yes.
Ward 5.
Yes.
Ward 6.
Yes.
Mayor.
Mayor votes yes. The next item on the agenda is the annual presentation of Officer of the Year, Civilian of the Year, Citizen of the Year, and Commander-in-Chief awards by the Albany City Commission. If Chief Pursley would come down.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, members of the commission. Tonight is our recognition of the personnel who received the Department of Annual Awards for the Albany Police Department. First, we'll start with the Commander-in-Chief Award, Lieutenant William Didell. if he'll come down. Every organization has that one go-to person, and the Albany Police Department, for the Albany Police Department, that's Lieutenant William Didell. Lieutenant Didell has been an officer with the Albany Police Department for 24 years and assigned as the lieutenant of the Special Operations Unit for 5 years. Aside from his regular duties, he's the department's resident IT specialist, which means if a piece of equipment is broken, he'll get it fixed, but you better have a good reason for it being broken. He has worked on several projects within the department that have incorporated technology into the daily operations. This includes mobile computer terminals, e-citation devices, speed detection devices, and an integrated in-car body-worn camera system. He keeps his unit engaged in daily activities from traffic enforcement to community support events while ensuring that all are knowledgeable and on additional duties which may be assigned to the unit. He is a valuable member of the department, and I'm extremely proud to have him on the team. Also, we were in the National Guard at the same time, so he's a good guy. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the 2020 Albany Police Department Commander-in-Chief Award, Lieutenant William Didell. Next is our Citizen of the Year, Ms. Makiba Wright. If she'll come down, please. To never forget where you came from and those you served with is a good way to describe Ms. Makiba Wright. At the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Albany Police Department was in need of additional personal protective equipment for officers while responding to calls of service. Upon learning this concern, Ms. Wright contacted the police department and began providing non-surgical reusable cloth masks to the officers. She and the Twin Storm organization began supplying these masks to all local law enforcement agencies within the Albany-Dougherty County area. Officers were very appreciative of this act of kindness shown by Ms. Wright. She has served this community well as a former law enforcement officer and continues to serve as an upstanding citizen. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the 2020 Albany Police Department Citizen of the Year, Ms. Makiba Wright. Next is our Civilian of the Year, Ms. Latasha Sloan. Will you come down, please? Keep smiling and keep laughing because it will get better one day is the attitude that Ms. Latasha Sloan exudes. Ms. Sloan has been an active member of the Albany Police Department for almost 3 years. She is an initial member of the Community Safety Officer Unit and has proven herself to be a valuable asset to the team. Ms. Sloan is patient, calm, and loves working with the community. Her demeanor is friendly, confident, and trusting, which makes it hard to have a bad day around her. She has picked on the title of being described as the mother of the community safety officers, because she will make sure that everyone is doing well and has their needs met. Ms. Sloan is always ready to take on any assignment given and will ensure others around her give their best to get the job done. I am very thankful to have her on our team. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the 2020 Albany Police Department Civilian of the Year, Ms. Latasha Sloan. Next, our Officer of the Year, Corporal Latavia Jackson. If you come down, please. I just want to do something different, Chief, was the statement made by Corporal Latavia Jackson in seeking to be transferred from the Uniform Bureau. Corporal Jackson has been an officer with the Albany Police Department for almost 10 years and assigned to the Robbery Homicide Unit for 2 years. Over the course of 2020, Corporal Jackson was the primary or secondary investigator on 3 homicide cases, which resulted in the suspects being captured and families receiving assurances that their loved ones were given justice. She has proven to be a loyal and dedicated worker who is willing to go above and beyond in the successful resolution of solving criminal cases. Her personality fits right in with her peers, and her demeanor makes people confident in her skills as an investigator. I am proud to have her on the team, as she is one of the many examples of public servants who make up the Albany Police Department. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the 2020 Albany Police Department Officer of the Year, Corporal Investigator Latavia Jackson. Mayor, that concludes the awards for this year, and as always, we're thankful for the support that we get from the commission. We strive every day to be the guardians of this city, making sure that all the residents and the visitors feel safe here as best they can. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Any comments? Commissioner Howard.
No comment. Just want to thank those that receive a award tonight and continue to do good work. And we certainly appreciate your endeavor toward making the city safe.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, everyone who received the award. Great job. Congratulations.
Commissioner Fletcher.
Well, to every one of them, again, I thank you to all of you.
Commissioner Warmington.
Yeah, just a big thank you and congratulations. Thanks.
Commissioner Langstaff.
Thanks to all of you, and congratulations.
Commissioner Young.
Thank you and congratulations for all your hard work.
And I just want to say personally, we appreciate what you do every day of the year, and it's appropriate that you're recognized on this one night. Thank you for what you do, and we look forward to many years together. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a application for for a beer and wine license at 2400 Clark Avenue. Good evening, Mr. Norman.
Good evening. This is an application on behalf of the Albany Convenience Store LLC, doing business as Albany Convenience Store at 2400 Clark Avenue. They have submitted an application for packaged beer and wine. The applicant is Shazad Aman from 2334 Threadneedle Court, Apartment 1. This type of business is a convenience store. The planning department identified this location zone in C3C on a collector street and in Ward 1. The distance requirement, the nearest school is Turner Elementary, 2001 Leonard Avenue, and the closest church is House by Faith, 212 Acorn Street. The establishment was previously licensed by right from 2014 to 2021. The police department has no open investigations at this location. Police calls over the past 12 months. There were 6 false alarms, 2 persons crimes, 4 property crimes, 93 building checks, and 22 miscellaneous calls. The applicant placed an article in the Albany Herald at least 10 days prior to this meeting as notification to the general public that this application would be considered for approval. The applicant and the location meets the criteria for approval.
Any question for the marshal? Commissioner Howard.
No question.
Mayor Pro Tem.
No questions.
Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fletcher.
No question.
Commissioner Warmington.
No question.
Commissioner Langstaff.
No question.
Commissioner Young.
No questions. Just to clarify that this is a existing business, and this is not a transfer, but a new license for a new owner who will be at this location.
That's correct.
Chair would entertain a motion to approve the application.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Commissioner Howard.
No further discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem.
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher.
No discussion.
Commissioner Warmington.
No discussion.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No discussion.
Commissioner Young?
No discussion.
Could we call the question, Ms. Talbot?
Ward 1,
No.
Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Mayor.
Mayor votes yes. The next item on the agenda is a recommendation to approve a contract to purchase, I think it is 12 2021 Ford F-150 pickups. Ms. Fields and Mr. Bednar.
Yes, sir. This is a request to purchase 12 pickups. We presented this at the last meeting. The only issue, I'm guessing, is between the gas option and the hybrid option. Mr. Bednar spoke on the detriments of the hybrid option at the last meeting. Our recommendation would be for the gas option for $409,162.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Fields? Commissioner Howard?
No question.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No questions.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No question.
Commissioner Warrington?
No question.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No questions.
Commissioner Young?
No questions.
Chair would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase.
The gas option?
Yes, the gas option.
Okay, there's a motion to approve the recommendation that we purchase the 12 vehicles with gas engines. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Commissioner Howard?
No further discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No discussion.
Commissioner Warrington?
No discussion.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No discussion.
Commissioner Young?
Real quickly, and this was probably discussed in the in the previous meeting, but was there a cost savings that we had identified?
Basically, the difference between the gas option was between the gas option and the hybrid option, all total is about $100,000.
Okay, but no projection in terms of, because I know they were talking about, you know, wear and tear, possible parts, breakdown, stuff like that. I thought there might have been a cost projection.
Mr. Bednar went into all that. If he's on the line, he can go back through it.
Good evening. The initial cost is $7,000. This is the twin turbo hybrid. It's a brand new truck, so we really don't have a lot of cost projections. We talked quite a bit about the fuel differences. It's about 5 miles per gallon between the gas model and the hybrid model. But as far as we're estimating, we would have additional maintenance requirements in basic PMs because of the heat from the twin turbos. As far as other additional costs would be in parts, because the hybrid uses a different tire, different wheel assemblies, uses different parts, of course, so we would end up having to increase our inventory.
Okay. With that, Ms. Howard, can we call the question?
Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Mayor.
Mayor votes yes. The next item on the agenda is the appointment of an interim public defender. We're all aware that Ms. Hightower, who was appointed in January of 2020, resigned that position. Ms. Talbot?
Well, Mayor, it's on the agenda specifically because we do kind of need a, excuse me, record of who the commissioners appoint for municipal court, because most of those employees are appointed. So at this point, we do have Naja Bridges that could be the interim public defender for the unexpired term ending January 2022, or if the commissioners have a specific person in mind.
Okay, any questions for Ms. Talbot, Mr. Howard,
No question for Mr. Talbot.
Mayor Pro Tem,
No questions.
Mr. Fletcher,
No questions.
Commissioner Warburton?
I don't remember discussing the Ms. Bridges last meeting.
We didn't.
So, I mean, do we have a resume, or I don't know who she is, or does she practice law in Albany, or what's the details of just who she is or her practice?
You got that, Mr. Brooks?
Yes, sir. Mayor, if I may, Commissioner Warrington, true, you have not seen the resume for Ms. Bridges. We'll be glad to provide that to you. The instructions that we got when we shared that our public defender had resigned was basically from the commission was to go ahead on an interim basis and have Ms. Wright and our HR department go ahead and vet some of the ones that had applied in the past when we selected Ms. Hightower. And so Ms. Bridges was one of the ones that we've done some background check on. She's already been through the process with us, is my understanding. Ms. Wright can correct me if I'm wrong. So we brought her in as an interim, and then we have put her on today's agenda to go ahead and have her fill out the term through January. But it's up to you all if you have somebody else in mind, or if you want to wait and take a look at her agenda and interview her, or anybody else. We just were trying to move it along.
Yeah, certainly, definitely appreciate that. I mean, does she practice law in Albany? Is that where her practice is?
Yes.
Okay.
And Mayor, can I speak?
Yes, ma'am.
That resume for Ms. Bridges was sent to the board. I can forward it to you all again for you to review. She is local. I think that was one of the preferences, that we had a local attorney that could readily be available for the days needed for the court. So I can send that back out to the board again for you to review.
Okay, all right.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No questions.
Commissioner Young?
No questions. I was just trying to pull up her resume here. Do you know when that was sent out?
April 7th.
No, sir, not the exact date, but I can certainly forward that back out to you all.
April
It has her
7th.
resume and the application for her interest in the position. She actually applied in the initial round for when the position was originally open. So we reached back out to all those candidates that had, originally applied, and she was one of the ones available and still interested. But I'll send that back out to you.
Okay, I have it here. No more questions, Mr. Mayor.
I understand we have to have somebody, a public defender over there to have court, because certain individuals are entitled to representation. I also want to mention the fact that I expressed some concern about Ms. Hightower when we went through this process before. A lawyer in Valdosta driving up to Albany 3 days a week, I thought that might present a problem, but she was with us up until the end of March. She didn't give us much notice. So I think really we're talking about another, 8 months on the term. I would suggest that we just appoint Ms. Bridges for 30 days, give a 30-day appointment, and then allow individuals who are interested to apply, including Ms. Bridges, as opposed to coming to this meeting tonight, not having discussed it or considered it even, and then appointing her for the remainder of the term. But
Would that possibly, I guess, make her not, make the position less appealing for her.
Yes.
If we say 30 days instead of letting her fill out the term, that may, you know.
Yeah, we would certainly make it less appealing, yeah.
I would suggest we go ahead and appoint her for the duration of the term.
Is that a motion?
Well, that's a discussion. I haven't decided on the motion. Somebody want to kind of discuss. Anybody else had any more comment on it?
Okay, all right. We'll go around the table one more time.
Mr. Mayor, since
Ms. Howard?
she was in that list of pool of applicant that did apply, and she, like Mr. Barry said, she was the next one on the list. I feel that since we've gotten this far, I think looking at about another 8 months, if she would do it. Because what I'm concerned about is that if we chop the days down, the municipal court is going to get behind, and it's going to be extremely difficult to catch up as it is. So if she's willing to do it, I would say just let her go and serve after 8 months.
Okay, can I ask a question? Mr. Davis, you mentioned that you're going to have to appear in municipal court later this week.
We have our abatement cases tomorrow
Where are they being heard?
in the Civic Center.
Okay, so is the municipal court functioning in the Civic Center?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
For the first,
all right, okay.
yeah, they're starting back up at the Civic Center tomorrow morning. Yes.
Okay, good news, okay. Is that all, Commissioner Howard?
That's it.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Nothing further?
Commissioner Fletcher?
No comment?
Commissioner Warmington?
No comment.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No comment.
Commissioner Young?
Yes, sir. I'll go ahead and officially make a motion to go ahead and approve
Ms. Bridges?
Ms. Bridges' hire for the
Duration
duration
of
of
the
the term.
Okay, is there a second?
I second it.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Commissioner Howard?
No further discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Nothing further?
Commissioner Fletcher?
No discussion?
Commissioner Lang? Commissioner Warmington?
So, and the duration of the term is through January?
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No discussion.
Commissioner Young?
No discussion.
Can we call the roll, Ms. Tarver?
Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yeah.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. The next item on the agenda is considering a request to rezone property located at 525 West Fifth Avenue from C5 to CR. Mr. Forgy.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. I'm available if you have any questions. I don't have a presentation prepared for this.
Okay, thank you. We've been through it at the work session. Any questions for Mr. Forgy, Commissioner Howard?
Mr. Paul,
Yes, sir.
since in the past, we've had, I know in the last year, so we've had 3 or 4 of these cases that have been on the agenda. And looking at the makeup of the city, and, you know, you're getting a lot of areas that where it's going from residential to office use, business district. And I know it's extremely difficult, but is there a better way that we can, when a person apply for these type of homes, a group home, a person care home, that if there's going to be a zoning change, that he or she should wait before they do some renovation? Or I'm not lost, but I realize that we've had these cases in the past. So do you have any suggestion how our code need to be modified or amended?
Well, in most of these cases, the applicants have waited until they're approved or denied to move forward. We have had a case where someone bought the property before they knew they could use it the way they wanted to. But in most cases, I don't think they put any significant money into rehabilitating it to use it in a way that they weren't permitted to. And I think that's kind of universally true. If someone buys a business and they want to make a restaurant out of it, if they're not zoned properly, they can't start making it into a restaurant without getting that approval. Unfortunately, it's some buyer beware and their own due diligence to make sure that they don't get ahead of themselves. But there's probably always improvements that could be made in the code, and we certainly can look into it.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No questions.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No questions.
Commissioner Warmington?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Langstaff?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Young?
Yes, sir. This for Mr. Forgy. When looking at the map, it seems like she's kind of on an island between the park and I guess Rawson Circle residential proper. So it's pretty much like you know, a buffer zone between Rawson Circle and the park, and she sits kind of right in the middle of it. And exactly how many commercial structures are around that little island?
I'm not sure of the specific number, but there are very few right there, owner-occupied residential structures. There's, I think, 3 in that island, as you say, between the park and Rawson Circle, or what begins Rawson Circle. The other buildings are used as apartments or multifamily apartments or a business in a residential structure. And it's probably equally divided amongst those, probably 3 of each of that type.
Okay, all right. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Any member of the commission wish to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to deny the request.
Motion to deny the request. Is there a second?
I'll second. Ward 4.
Okay. Discussion? Commissioner Howard?
No further discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Fletcher?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Warmington?
Nothing else.
Commissioner Langstaff?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Young?
Yes, sir. I guess in light of Commissioner Howard's comments, I really want, you know, people to understand that this is not quite the situation that we've had with these businesses that Commissioner Howard referred to in the past. You know, for one of the reasons, you know, we had outside entities coming into our community looking to locate, you know, a boys' home or relocate a rehab shelter coming in from the outside. I think is it Ms. Collins, has been in this location since 2006, pretty much serving the same, you know, demographic clientele, whatever you want to call it, since then. Now, I know it brings on a different thing when, you know, you look to have these people reside at that residence, but, you know, from, I guess, all reports and comments from the residents, she has not been a problem. Even the, I think her neighbor, who she said literally is in her backyard, says she has not had any problems with the young lady performing her business. So for me, that sticks out. That is, you know, what makes this case different. And then also, again, the location of the property. It's not in the Rawson Circle proper, you know, area. It is between the park and where the you know, historic Rawson Circle district is, and I think that's what makes it different. You do have other commercial businesses around. You have doctor's offices and whatnot, and I just really think that this is a, you know, a unique situation. Not the same as the others, although we do need to find a solution to that issue as well. So that's just kind of the one understanding I wanted to bring out, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Young. Call the question?
Ward 1,
No.
Ward 2,
No.
Wait,
Ward,
Yeah, can we clarify, so this is a motion to
yeah,
deny?
the motion, Mayor Pro Tem, is to deny.
Okay, well, so yes, then on the motion to deny.
Isn't that correct, Mr. Davis?
That's what I understood.
Yes, sir, okay.
Commissioner Howard, are you still a no or yes?
Yes.
You're yes? Okay. Starting over, Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes to deny.
Ward 6,
No to the denial.
Mayor.
Mayor votes yes to deny. Thank you, Mr. Forgy.
You're welcome.
Next item on the agenda is a request to rezone property located at 223 Philema Road from C7C to C5.
This is property on the north side of Philema that is asking to rezone to build apartments there. That would be continuation of the existing apartments, Marsh Landings. If you have any questions.
Okay. Commissioner Howard, any questions, Mr. Forgy?
No further question on that denial, on that piece of property.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No questions.
Commissioner Fuller? Commissioner Fletcher?
No question.
Commissioner Warmington?
No questions.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No questions.
Commissioner Young?
No questions.
Chair would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I offer the ordinance and ask for unanimous consent to dispense with second reading and ask for its adoption for the zoning case on Philema Road.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Howard?
No further discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No question.
Commissioner Warmington?
Nothing else.
Commissioner Langstaff?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Young?
Nothing further.
Could we call the roll, Ms. Tarver?
Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Mayor.
Mayor votes yes. The next item on the agenda is a first reading to a proposed amendment to the city charter, which would eliminate the requirement that code enforcement director be post-certified. Could you explain this to us, Mr. Davis?
Yes, sir, that's a very accurate description you gave of if you have a code enforcement department with a post-certified director, they can actually prosecute what I'll call higher grade ordinance type crimes, different code sections, and do more of what I'll call investigative work. So this doesn't affect the ability of the code enforcement department to move forward on city ordinances and zoning, building matters, and environmental and occupation tax certificates, the false alarm ordinance, that type of thing. Thanks for asking.
Okay, Mr. Davis, this is a first reading. We don't vote on this tonight, do we, or do we vote?
You do vote, but
Okay,
you
you vote-
cannot,
you have to vote
cannot
twice.
waive the second reading. Yeah.
Okay, if it
And
passes the first time.
You'll see a notice in the newspaper telling the public that copies of these documents are on file in the Superior Court Clerk's office and when the final vote will be. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for the city attorney, Commissioner Howard?
Mr. Davis, by we striking that this position, the person does not have to be post-certified. and
That's
that
the bottom
means-
line, yes, sir.
Bottom line. If he is certified, he or she they will be allowed to carry a gun, right?
Yes, sir. But that, I think, the main thing is that, as I understood it from the prior city manager, they were just having a hard time filling the position with that. And they didn't want to keep having it unfilled, and, you know, they could still move forward with what I'll call their major items, such as abatements, dilapidation, et cetera. won't affect that.
Let me ask you another question. Since the city manager is no longer here, it is a time certain that we're going to re-advertise?
I apologize, I don't know the status of what's going on as far as interviews, advertisements. I just saw the interim city manager come on board, so he probably has the answer to that.
Mr. Carter?
Yes, sir. If you'd like me to answer, I can.
Yes, sir, please.
Yes, we're really waiting on the decision from this group to determine how we're going to move forward. We've had interviews in the past that didn't pan out for us as far as being able to select someone. We're asking for this change so that we can get a bigger pool of applicants, but we're waiting on a decision from this group before we re-advertise. So we can advertise based on what the desires of the group is.
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
You're welcome.
That's it.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No questions.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No questions.
Commissioner Warmington?
Yeah, so, Mr. Davis, so nothing that's striking through deals with that one position. It's dealing with the entire department. So does that mean that, others are not required to be post-certified in code enforcement department?
That's correct. It wouldn't, it just moves the requirement off the books. If you go to, when you go back out, if you're fortunate enough to have somebody who is post-certified and takes the position, then, you know, they would be entitled to step up a notch in their enforcement if they had enough people.
But the way it reads with what you're deleting, it's just removing any law enforcement mention, essentially. So by removing a mention of law enforcement, it removes the post-certified requirement.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay. And that would be not just the director, but it would be anybody under that position.
Absolutely, yes, that's right.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's it, thanks.
Commissioner Langstaff?
Well, I'm just going to point out that is in line, I believe, with the preliminary information we got back from the consultant on the police department. Is that we need to have more civilians in different positions because it's so hard to get post-certified folks. So anyway, I'm in favor of it.
Thank you.
No further questions.
Commissioner Young?
Attorney Davis, I guess you seem to kind of point out what would be lost in terms of the skills in that position or the ability to investigate certain things. Would that make your job harder as, I guess, prosecutor for these things in the municipal court if we didn't have, you know, I guess that skill set to kind of lean on investigatively?
No, so the skill set for what the main function as I see municipal court, the skill set is a great distance from having to be post-certified. We need people that have backgrounds in construction, backgrounds in building, backgrounds in buying materials, because one of the integral parts of an abatement case is that the cost to actually bring the house back into code greatly exceeds its fair market value. So we need people that can literally, not literally and figuratively, testify under oath that they've been involved in construction, they know what it costs per square foot, they personally looked at the building, so this wouldn't have any effect on our abatement or.
So the only thing it would hamper, like you said, is to the ability, if that person needed to investigate, you know, something, you know, I guess criminal or do law enforcement.
That's a good way to look at it, yes.
Okay, all right, understood.
Thank you.
I would just point out before we call for a vote, there's nothing to prohibit the director from being post-certified here, and that would be an advantage of the position, but what we're trying to do is, I believe Ms. Subadan's point was we have some qualified applicants, but, I mean, qualified in all regards as opposed to not having the certification, which is, the charter is imposing that requirement. So with that, if Anyone would like to make a motion?
May I say something before we finish, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Although I think the original intent here was just for this to be a change at the director level and not at the department level. However, we would still recruit for post-certified individuals at the department level.
Okay. How many employees, how many budgeted positions do we have in code enforcement?
I will have to check. I don't know off the top of my head, but I can get a number for you.
Do we know what percentage of the officers are post-certified?
100%. That's a requirement at this point.
Okay, Mr. Norman.
Currently, there's 15 positions for code enforcement. Out of those 15, there are 2 sworn officers currently, and there's 1 sworn officer position that is currently vacant. Okay. So there's 3 sworn officers, a total of 15 total.
Okay, so you have 15 budgeted positions, and 3 of those positions are for sworn officers.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And are you still post-certified?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Would that be in addition to the 2 officers you mentioned?
No, sir.
You'd be included in that?
Yes, sir. Well, I'm part-time.
Okay.
I'm just interim.
Okay. But, I mean, if we took Nathaniel Norman out of the equation, does that leave us with 1 sworn officer?
There'll be 3.
3.
One
Not
vacant.
budgeted, I'm talking about how many people we got working now?
You have 2 working there now with 1 vacancy.
Okay.
That, as far as the officer level, that doesn't include the director and the chief code enforcement officer.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Norman. Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Norman? Mr. Howard?
I have no question, but I'm still back to the point that the person, officer that we should hire, should be post-certified. And I tell you the reason why. If you run into some of these cases where there's an eviction or whatever to serve a citation, we have some mean-spirit, we don't want to say it, but we have some mean-spirit residents out there now. And I wouldn't take the job because, you know, if I couldn't, you know, be certified to protect myself while I'm on duty and going in some of these neighborhoods or apartments, it's frightening. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, any questions, Mr. Norman or Mr. Carter?
No questions. No questions.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No questions.
Commissioner Warrington?
No questions.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No question.
Commissioner Young?
No questions.
Chair would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I would offer the ordinance and ask, well, we're not, we got to do a required second reading, so no reason to ask for unanimous. Yep, offer the ordinance and ask for its adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Commissioner Howard?
No further discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Nothing further.
Mr. Fletcher?
Nothing else.
Commissioner Warrington?
Nothing else.
Mr. Langstaff?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Young?
Nothing further.
Can we call the roll, Ms. Talbot?
Yes. Ward 1?
Yes.
Ward 2?
Yes.
Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Mayor votes yes. And the next item on the agenda is a second proposed amendment to the charter, which would eliminate the requirements that those positions, some of which we mentioned earlier, city manager, city attorney, city clerk, municipal judge, prosecutor, public defender, be appointed at the organizational meeting following elections. Ms. Davis, can you explain
Yes, sir,
that?
that's a good summary. No longer will the appointments, there's still appointments that you make, but they're no longer tagged as being made on a certain day or for a certain term. all of these appointments are at will. Thank you.
Any questions, Commissioner Howard?
No question.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No questions.
Commissioner Fletcher?
Well, I just would like to have a comment of knowing when will these votes be taking place?
Okay. I had some thoughts on that myself, but I guess we can go around the table and any other questions?
No, that's my question.
Well, I mean,
Thank you.
it's a sound question, obviously, and Commissioner Warmington?
Yeah, the only comment I would make is I think this kind of drives the point home that we need to start doing evaluations for these positions. You know, the 2-year appointment was almost an evaluation of its own in terms of not affirming or not reappointing a certain person or a certain position. But I think basically what we're indicating is we're hiring these positions until further notice. So there's no 2-year. So I really think we should get back to annual evaluations to really treat these individuals as full-time employees. So there's not a gotcha moment every 2 years as has been set up for the last decade or so. So certainly in favor of removing this from the charter. I just think it puts more burden on us as a commission to have more regular engagement with these individuals as employees through the manner of evaluation. That's it.
Commissioner Langstaff?
I can support moving the date to do it, you know, like instead of doing it in January when you get brand new commissioners, to move the date to like July. I thought that's what we were going to do, but I don't want to do away with the provision entirely. I think that creates other problems.
Okay. Commissioner Young?
I guess in thinking about it, as Commissioner Warmington was thinking about it, I think we do need to have those evaluations and kind of treat this, you know, as, you know, a regular higher position. Did we get any information from our friends at GMA on best practices for this, or you know, any recommendations for that? Where there may have been some cities who did not do these positions by appointment, but as actual hires by the board.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, I don't remember. I mean, we probably discussed it. Did we discuss it at the retreat?
I don't recall that.
Okay,
well, that's what I would. I guess that's what I would look for, some guidance in terms of, because I see Commissioner Warburton's point, and I think that it just, you know, to have that evaluation is a thing that would, you know, drive these appointments and make sure that you know, we're doing our due diligence about the positions and not just kind of automatically looking at it every 2 years.
Okay. Is that all, Commissioner?
Yes.
Yeah, getting back to what Commissioner Fletcher pointed out, it didn't hit me till I was looking at it this weekend. We don't need to give somebody a sinecure. I mean, there needs to be some type of term for these appointments. And I guess that's what, Commissioner Fletcher, you were alluding to, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, if there should be a begin and end date on these appointments, but also, as Commissioner Warmington pointed out, it needs to be a matter of the commission being a little bit more involved in evaluating these employees, as opposed to, well, we're satisfied, you're reappointed 2 years later. What Commissioner Langstaff mentioned, and I'm about to make a motion to maybe table this, but and work on this omission if we could, Mr. Davis. Commissioner Langstaff, would you agree to make the appointments in the January of the even-numbered years?
Yeah, that could work.
Yeah, that would be, everybody on the commission would have served 1 year. Would that be an option, Mr. Davis?
Yes, so we can, if somebody wants to amend the ordinance tonight, we can.
Mayor, currently, Mayor, they are on the even years. Whenever the
Oh,
mayor.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I mean, this would be in the odd numbered years.
Right.
Where there's no election in the previous November.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And the other thing to your point, so I served as president of the Clerks, Georgia president of the Clerks Associations, however that works. And what the discussions were amongst the clerks is clerks are either appointed by the council or they report and are hired by the city manager. So that's the difference in that, and then they go by whatever the charter says as to how the appointments are made. So if they're appointed, it's in the charter, and ours, I sent y'all an email that said it went back to 1912, all the way from there, that it's been every 2 years, and of course you can't amend that. But they didn't talk about their charters being amended or changed. It was either that way for those current clerks. Because if it was changed, it was probably changed before those clerks came on, because everybody, was either hired by the city manager or the Board of Council.
Any further discussion? Mr. Howard?
Nathan, let me ask you a question off the top of my head. Since it's been almost 20 years since the commission went from a 2-year term to a 4-year term, is there anything that in the charter, a home rule said we couldn't appoint those individuals to 4-year term, or what?
No, sir. Again, they're at-will employees, so it's at your discretion.
Mr. Mayor, that just was a train of thought, so we need to probably look at it in the near future.
Well, I mean, that would be the, I think we kind of, but, okay, if that's, Mayor Pro Tem?
I would support doing this on the January after we had not had an election. I think, a lot of times with new elected officials coming in, obviously I think that's the issue while we're talking about this is you're asking them to make a decision on somebody they've never worked with and don't know anything about. So I'd go for doing where everybody at least had a year's worth in their seat before they'd make any kind of vote on that.
Mr. Fletcher?
Well, I think I'm on the same page. I mean, for example, the end of this year, 3 of us are going to have been on the board for a minimum of 4 years. The rest are going to be on the board, the rest would be on the board for a minimum of 2. So I think that we would all be more knowledgeable of putting things than just right off the end. It's something like that, and it's not making a new one do it. I'll go with the majority. Thank you.
Mr. Wolverton?
Yeah, so I guess the proposal on the table would change the wording to say the second Monday in January of 2023, and then it would be every 2 years after that. So it wouldn't happen this January. It would happen January, a year from this January.
Well,
if we go with this notion of just changing it to the.
I think it would say on the, it should probably say on the 4th Tuesday in January, because in the even numbered years, the odd numbered years, you're not going to have a meeting. That organizational meeting is just that first Monday.
Which is not in
That's not every year, is it, Mr. Davis?
Every other.
You want to say, shall on the 4th Monday in January, odd numbered years? Is that what you want to do?
It'd be the 4th Tuesday, wouldn't it?
Tuesday.
You don't have an organizational meeting except.
Yeah, I would keep it in line with our Tuesday meetings.
Yeah.
So to say on the 4th Tuesday. starting in January 2023.
So Mayor, I have a question for the records.
Yes, ma'am.
So this would mean we do our annual appointments on even number of years on that second Monday. So we would be moving the organizational meeting to the fourth Tuesday?
It would not be an organizational meeting. That's the point.
Okay, you
The
don't.
organizational meeting, I think, contemplates the first meeting after an election.
Well, we're changing the year though. So
Yes, ma'am.
do we still have to change the way the meetings flows?
I think this would say, the Board of City Commissioners shall, on the fourth Tuesday in January of 2023, and on the fourth Tuesday in January every 2 years thereafter. Is that correct, Mr. Davis? Elect the city manager, city attorney.
So are we saying the fourth Tuesday on every odd year thereafter, or just in January thereafter? Because the charter is specific.
It says for
on-
2 years. It says, the Board of City Commissioners shall, on the fourth Tuesday in January of 2023, and on the fourth Tuesday in January every 2 years thereafter.
Okay.
So we just have a 1 year gap. We'd have to do something next year. Okay, Ms. Davis, will that change? Will we have to, if that's agreeable with everyone, would we have to continue it? Table, and start anew, since we didn't?
No, sir, I believe we have time to get the document, as y'all just amended it, out with an appropriate notice and over to the Superior Court clerk.
Okay.
I'll let you know if that doesn't happen.
Okay, thank you. Is that agreeable with everyone? Commissioner Howard? Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Fletcher?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Warburton?
Yes, and so I guess we're going to do our first reading tonight.
I think Mr. Davis said
we could.
I think he said so.
Okay.
Commissioner Langstaff?
What's the new reading gonna say?
It would say, the Board of City Commissioners shall, on the fourth Tuesday in January of 2023, and on the fourth Tuesday in January every 2 years thereafter.
Okay, so those are non-election years, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, I can go with that.
Okay. Commissioner Young?
I'm good with it.
Okay. And with that,
Mayor, I have one more question for clarification. So
I'm sorry.
I have one more question for clarification. So all the other board appointments will go as they currently are?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, which is on,
The organizational meeting.
right,
Yes.
okay, gotcha. Are we ready for me to call the roll?
Ma'am,
You ready for me to call?
we hadn't had a motion, have we?
Motion, okay.
Chair to entertain a motion.
Why don't you do it since you...
Oh, okay,
you have
offer
the words.
ordinance and ask for its adoption.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Commissioner Howard?
No further discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Fletcher?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Warburton?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Langstaff?
Just to clarify, this is the revised ordinance.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Young?
Nothing further.
Yes, sir. Can you have I guess, the city attorney to read the revision so everybody understands what we're
Okay.
voting on?
Could we do that, Mr. Davis?
I'd rather you do it, Mayor.
Okay. Yes, sir. It would read, Section 1I of the charter would be amended as follows. Election of officers, terms, rights reserved, acceptance of gifts, etc. The Board of City Commissioners shall, on the fourth Tuesday in January of 2023, and on the fourth Tuesday in January every 2 years thereafter, elect a city manager, a city attorney, and such assistant city attorneys it shall deem appropriate, a city clerk and assistant city clerk. And at the pleasure of the board, may elect a chief judge for the municipal court for Albany and an associate judge for such part-time, full-time, or standby judges as it shall deem appropriate. agree?
Yes, sir.
Can we call the roll, Ms. Talbot?
Yes.
Yes.
Ward 1, okay. Ward 2?
Yes.
Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
I hate to beat a dead horse, but just to clarify, we're just changing that first sentence. The rest of section 1I will stay the same.
Yes, sir.
Then I'm a yes.
Okay.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Mayor?
Mayor votes yes. The next item on the agenda is a proposed amendment to the charter, which would return the city manager's spending limit to $40,000. Mr. Davis?
Yes, sir, that's correct. The cap would now drop from $100,000 to $40,000. And there's also a provision in your city code that already caps it at 40,000.
Yeah, I think that's 2649, is that
Yes.
right?
Yes, sir.
I think.
And when you raised it to 100, there was no need to also go to the city code because the city charter supersedes or overrides anything in the city code. So now they'll both say 40.
Well, I do think they need to be consistent, though.
Yes, sir. Oh, yeah, this
Yes,
will make them consistent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions of this? Commissioner Howard?
No question.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No question.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No question.
Commissioner Warburton?
Yeah, just for clarity, so the utility board remains 200.
That's correct.
And the way that is a majority vote of the utility board, and I think the city manager has veto of that.
I'm not sure about the second part of that,
But just the majority.
Yeah.
But their limit stays the same regardless.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They're just recommend, Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Langstaff?
I'm against this one, but I don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Young?
No further discussion.
Okay, with that, I'd offer the ordinance and ask for its adoption.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Commissioner Howard?
No further discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Fletcher? Commissioner Warburton?
Nothing else.
Commissioner Langstaff?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Young?
No further discussion.
Could we call the roll, Ms. Talbot?
Yes. Ward 1?
Yes.
Ward 2?
No.
Ward 3?
No.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
No.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Mayor?
Mayor votes yes. And the next, we move on to resolutions. Next item on the agenda is a proposal to accept a grant from the National Park Service Historic Preservation Fund for, to develop a revitalization plan for the Harlem area. Mr. Forgy, could you come up? Anything further you'd like to tell us about this?
No, sir, but if you have any questions, I'm available to answer.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Forgy. Any questions for Mr. Forgy, Commissioner Howard?
No question for Mr. Paul.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No questions.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No questions.
Commissioner Warburton?
No questions.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No questions.
Commissioner Young?
No questions.
Thank you, Ms. Forgy.
You're welcome.
With that, the chair would entertain a motion.
Of the resolution, act for its adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Commissioner Howard?
No further discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Fletcher?
Nothing else.
Commissioner Warburton?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Langstaff?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Young?
Nothing further.
Could we call the roll, Ms. Talbot?
Yes. Ward 1?
Yes.
Ward 2?
Yes.
Ward 3? Ward 3? Ward 4?
Ward 4 is yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Mayor?
Mayor votes yes.
Do we want to go back to Ward 3 to see if she's on?
Commissioner Fletcher, are you with us?
Yes.
Okay, did you?
Yes, I'm on. I said yes.
Okay, Mr. Fletcher said yes. Mark. Okay. Next item on the agenda is a request to authorize SPLOST 7 funds for a professional survey and engineering services for proposed pickleball courts at Tiff Park. Ms. Fields, Mr. Potter?
Yes, sir.
Who's speaking to this item? Either or both?
We'll let Mr. Potter do it. He's
Mr.
down
Potter,
there.
you have the floor.
I have nothing to offer. It's already been presented before, but I am here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, Ms. Fields, anything?
Nothing further.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Potter or Ms. Fields? Commissioner Howard?
In this proposal, this pickleball court, is that something that the city threw in there?
Oh, I don't know. I was not involved in or notified of any discussions regarding the pickleball court, so
Mr. Potter?
I'm not the one to ask.
We have been looking for the discussion of pickleball courts has been going on for a while. When the county made their proposal there, they added in with asking us to put pickleball courts in, and that is the area in which we were looking to put pickleball courts in.
Okay, so it was already, the area, as you stated, was looking forward to it before they kind of approached us, right?
Yes, sir. It is the old tennis courts there in Tiff Park, in that same footprint where those old tennis courts were in Tiff Park, beside the pool.
So is it popular in Albany or Dougherty County or Southwest Georgia?
Sir,
Is it popular in Southwest Georgia?
It is popular everywhere, yes, sir.
Oh, okay. That's it.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I don't have any questions, but just a few comments. The pickleball in Albany, has been discussed for quite some time and a location to have it. And I feel like that Tiff Park is a great centralized spot to do it. We already have those tennis courts, or something needs to happen on those anyway. I think it's an economic development project. There's actually tournaments all over South Georgia that are going on every weekend. So I think it would be a great economic development project for us. Positive activity for Tiff Park. Good chance to piggyback with the county if they're going to be doing the tennis center. I just think it makes a lot of sense. And I think Tiff Park is a good central spot for it. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Fletcher?
Well, I agree. I've also, I think one of the attractions of pickleball is it attracts just a very diverse age group of this place, and it is very popular, and tournaments are popping all up over throughout the state. Thank you.
Commissioner Warmington?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Langstaff?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Young?
Yes, sir. What year was SPLOST 7? I guess that's for either Ms. Fields or I don't know if Mr. Brown is on.
Is it 2016?
You said 2016?
I think that's correct.
Okay, was this one of the projects that was told to the voters in terms of 2016 SPLOST referendum?
No, this
a pickleball court? Say what now?
This tennis court has been on for the last 20-some years.
Okay, but so we just put the pickleball on top of that.
I think it probably just said recreation improvements.
Okay.
It probably what it said.
That's correct.
Okay. I guess, what I'm trying to get at is I guess kind of our priorities, and I get it. This is something that, we had a political will to do, but, other projects, i.e. Bill Miller Center, Henderson Gym are still sitting there, and pickleball is race to the top of that. And this, Bill Miller, Henderson Gym, again, was voted on during a whole nother administration, and we have stalled that, stalled those renovations. So I'm, just trying to find a political will for us to go ahead and whatever we're going to do for those projects, get them back online and get them back on track. Because those residents have been waiting for years, probably more than a decade, to get those gyms that were built in the 70s renovated. That's all I have to add, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Potter, who was it with the city that was involved in these negotiations with the county?
As far as I know, that the county brought those to Ms. Subadan to the city manager's office. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Carter, but I think that is correct, that they brought forward from that. But as I said before, we were already looking for areas to put a pickleball court, and that was one of the areas in which we were looking at and thought was the best.
Well, I can say again, I was not involved in, or I was not notified of any discussions with the county. We got this proposal for the $82,500. It's my understanding it's engineering and survey. Now, I'm gonna vote for this thing tonight, but Commissioner Young has pointed out that this pickleball court is down the line in what we need to be doing with recreation. And I mean, $400,000 was the estimate, I think, that was mentioned at our work session, Mr. Potter. We could come close. I mean, I'm hoping we're gonna get a number of what it would cost to renovate Carver Gym, and that $400,000 should be invested in those two properties, Henderson Gym and Bill Miller Center. I don't think they need to be renovated. I think we need to build new facilities down there, but I also understand we need to wait until we have the master plan. But I just want to say that you got the engineering. I had no involvement in this, but I will not vote to spend $400,000 on pickleball courts before we address these other needs in the community. And as again, we have those two facilities have been closed since the pandemic, and we had considered the renovations, and we got into the issues of being below the floodplain and that kind of thing. But thank you, Mr. Potter. Thank you, Ms. Field. Yes, sir. Any member of the commission?
I'd like to offer the resolution and ask for its adoption.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Commissioner Howard.
No further discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Nothing further.
Mr. Fletcher.
Nothing further.
Commissioner Warmington.
Yeah, one question, this may be for Mr. Carter. Since we are now, I guess, partnering with the county on this project, how much involvement are we going to have from a city standpoint in the conceptualizing master plan of the whole project?
Well, understand this, what we're voting on tonight is only the engineering piece of this. The actual planning for it have not gone forth yet. We do intend to be involved in the process, and they're going to be responsible for a tennis court. We will be responsible for the racquetball court. So we have to kind of work together in the whole concept of it. But it's going to be two separate projects if you guys approve the going forth with the pickleball court.
Yeah, and I understand that. My concern is we're going to start investing significant city funds on the pickleball courts. Well, if the county decides, hey, we're only going to build 4 tennis courts and we're going to do something else, and their scope begins to shrink, the city needs to have a seat at the table to ensure that the whole project is built the way it's designed and the funding is there. You know, we're committed to our funding and our part, But the success of our part depends on the county, and we should have input into whatever they're doing, the size of their clubhouse, because whoever uses the pickleball courts are going to be using the tennis pro center that's connected to the tennis courts. And so once we approve this tonight, what I'm saying is now the city is committed funding to this area, and it shouldn't be we're over here in our silo, they're over there in their silo, and we're developing two projects independently, and nobody's talking to each other, and there's no collaboration, and we should be almost forming a group together to start this whole project off in terms of once the engineering is designed. You know, I don't know who's deciding. I guess even like what we're doing with the pickleball courts, is it for 8 courts, 6 courts? You know, even deciding how many courts, there should be a group collaborating between city county that's deciding those sorts of things, is what my point is. And so I don't know if that's you, Mr. Carter. I assume that you're at that table with the county and the county administrator.
Right. If you guys decide that you want a committee to help kind of form that process or move forward that process, I can definitely bring that up as a bargaining point for what we do with that area. I think the court itself can accommodate 8, but it just depends on what it costs as to what kind of funding is allocated to it as to how many will actually be built. So all of those things will come into play once we have the engineering study done.
Okay.
But I have no problem, talking to the county about forming a partnership in this process.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Commissioner Langstaff?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Young?
Did we discuss pickleball courts at Carver or now Driscoll Park? I thought that was on that.
Discussion, yeah.
Huh?
There was some discussion.
So pickleballs are on at Driscoll Park as well?
No,
that's not on the.
No, not on the plan, but there were on the proposals.
Okay, all right. Yeah, even I guess the conversation about, who's doing what, that just further points to somehow we've got our priorities and our, what we're trying to do kind of off kilter. So what I'd like to do, Mayor, is, if we can, at some point in these next sessions, have staff come back to us specifically with a recommendation for moving forward with the a plan for Henderson and Bill Miller in these next ones. I'll vote for this. I do understand that pickleball is becoming very popular, what have you, and I guess in the spirit of cooperation, but I do want those gyms, considered. Again, this is something that was talked about in a whole nother administration. We had money that was voted on and approved and budgeted, and now we're just dead in the water. And we need to move forward with those.
Okay. Is that all, Commissioner?
Yes, sir.
I just want to mention, I think Commissioner Warrington's wrong when he talked about using the facilities, because you got to remember the Boys and Girls Club separate these two properties. Isn't that right, Mr. Carter?
That is correct.
Yeah, so I mean, you're going to have restrooms here by these pickleball courts. It's just not going to work to have people walk a full block, and that's so I think you're getting into it.
There are already restrooms right there beside where those courts will be built.
Are they locked all the time?
They are unlocked now.
They are.
And every day, yes, we unlock them in the morning and unlock them in the evenings, but we could rotate that schedule around and have them open for whatever time you need.
Okay.
Whatever that discussion is, those on the that's not present in the room cannot hear that.
I'm sorry.
They couldn't hear what that was me. 'Cause I didn't
Okay.
hear the mic. What I was saying, Mr. Carter, was that there are already restrooms there right beside where those pickleball courts will be built, and they are open now during the day, but we could open them for whatever length of time needed to be.
And if somebody has a tournament, would they be satisfied with the condition of those restrooms?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, well. With that, okay, can we call the roll, Ms. Talbot?
I don't have a motion, Mayor.
No, I think
did you make
Mayor
it?
Pro Tem made a motion, didn't he?
Hang on, let me see. Oh, yeah, it was.
Yes,
I'm
sir, I
sorry.
did.
Okay, you're right.
Ward 5 seconded.
Okay.
Okay. Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Mayor.
No. And the next item on the agenda is a request to approve installation of traffic controlling devices on the 2300 block of East Doublegate Drive. You with us, Mr. Maples?
Yes, sir, I am. I'm here for any questions. I would like to request at the work session, we had gotten word that material costs had increased significantly. We had asked that section 2 of the resolution be modified from $18,300 so that it states that the finance director is authorized to use up to $25,000 just in case the bids come in a little bit higher than the 18.3, which is about what we've been paying now for 3. But we would like to have that up to 25,000. So in case it does come over the 18.3, we wouldn't have to come back before the city commission and get an increase.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Maples. Any questions, Commissioner Howard?
No question. Thanks for your clarification.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No questions.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No question.
Commissioner Warmington?
Just one quick question, Mr. Maples. On the traffic study, do you know what the top speed was? Do you have that info in front of you?
Ken Breedlove's on the line. Maybe he can answer. I don't have the speed study in front of me, but the 85th percentile was 40 miles an hour, which means it's pretty significant. So.
And at that level, 80% signatures required, or does that go to 60%?
At that point, it was I think it was we required the 60%, but it garnered still more than it garnered more than 80%.
Okay. If you could get the top speed, I'm just curious, because that definitely is a
Okay.
fast section there. All right, that's it.
Commissioner Langstaff?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for their work on getting this to the commission table and say that we've been trying to get speed humps on this street for the last 20 years, I think. I used to live on this street, and there are straightaways on it that are definitely a racetrack. I appreciate Kenneth Stock's work in trying to find a way to get this done, and I would appreciate the commissioner's vote on it. There are a lot of residents on the street that want it to make it more pedestrian friendly, bike friendly, that sort of thing, and to protect character of the neighborhood, to allow kids to be on the street. So this is an important vote, and I would appreciate all y'all's support. I'm sure everybody has some street in their ward that is categorized in a way that would not have allowed speed humps under the old ordinance, but this was part of the tweaks that we did to make it so that more streets could have it, if you got the petition signed and you got enough people signed up. So anyway, I appreciate the support on this one. It's a long time coming.
Commissioner Young?
Nothing further.
Mr. Maples or Mr. Carter, I'm reading and hearing with the American Rescue Plan and the proposed infrastructure bill, this infusion of funds that contractors that been sitting on the hands for the last year and a half now got more to do than they can do. And if you would check, I understand that concrete and steel prices are going up, and they're predicted to go up as much as 20% in the next 18 months, and that's really going to have an impact on construction cost. And I think if we can get something together so that if that is correct, the commission is aware of that fact, because if it is true, we're going to get a lot less bang for our buck this time next year than if we postpone construction projects. But with that, Chair would entertain a motion.
Ward 5, offer the resolution and ask for its adoption.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Commissioner Howard.
No further discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Nothing further?
Commissioner Fletcher.
No discussion.
Commissioner Worthington.
Nothing else.
Commissioner Langstaff.
Nothing further.
Commissioner Young.
Nothing further.
Could we call the question, Ms. Talbot?
Sure. Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Mayor.
Mayor votes yes. The next item on the agenda is a proposal to accept the recommendation from the Community Development Council to fund certain public service grants through Community Development Block Grant Funds. Ms. Brown, are you with us? Good evening, Ms. Brown.
The item was presented last Tuesday. I'm here to answer any questions that the board may have, and I believe the 4 recommended for award should be on the call as well.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Brown. Any question, Ms. Brown, or any of the applicants? Commissioner Howard.
No further discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem.
No question.
Commissioner Fletcher.
No question.
Commissioner Worthington.
No question.
Commissioner Langstaff.
No question.
Commissioner Young.
No questions.
Chair would entertain a motion.
Offer the resolution, act for its adoption.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Commissioner Howard.
No further discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem.
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher.
No discussion.
Commissioner Worthington.
No discussion.
Commissioner Langstaff.
No discussion.
Commissioner Young.
No discussion.
Ms. Talbot, could we call the roll?
Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Mayor.
Mayor votes yes. And the next item on the agenda is request to approve federal funds to purchase transit buses. Is that correct? Is Mr. Hamilton with us?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
How you doing, Mr. Hamilton?
I'm doing great, sir.
Can you explain this for us, please?
Yes, sir. Again, this is just an annual grant award. The 5307 is an annual award. The 5339 is a special award for the purchase of buses. So I have nothing further to add to what we discussed at the work session.
Any questions for Mr. Hamilton? Mr. Howard?
No discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem? Any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Fletcher?
No question.
Commissioner Worthington?
No questions.
Mr. Langstaff?
No question.
Commissioner Young?
No questions.
And again, Mr. Hamilton, is there any possibility we could use these funds to buy electric buses?
Yes, sir, it is. We actually are looking at that right now, in particular with the smaller paratransit buses.
Okay.
We do understand that the electric buses are maybe 15 to 20% higher in cost. So we'll be looking at that.
Okay. But we also consider what the fuel cost savings are, don't we? Chair would entertain a motion. Sir?
I was saying, yes, sir, we will take a look at all.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Hamilton. Chair would entertain a motion.
Offer the resolution and ask for its adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Commissioner Howard?
No further discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No discussion.
Commissioner Warrington,
No discussion.
Commissioner Langstaff,
No discussion.
Commissioner Young.
No discussion.
Ms. Talbot, would you call the question?
Ward 1,
Yes.
2,
Yes.
3,
Yes,
4,
Yes.
5. Ward 5,
Yes. Yes.
6,
Yes.
Mayor.
Mayor votes yes. The next item on the agenda is a request for the city to initiate rezoning for a property at 1004 Newton Road. Good evening, Mr. Forgy, again.
Hello. Yes, this is a request for the city to initiate a rezoning for a single piece of property at 1004 Newton Road. It's currently zoned residentially, and it's been occupied by a commercial structure since 1949 when that building was constructed. And the owner cannot use it commercially because the use has been discontinued for several years. So in order to reuse this, it would have to be rezoned. And the request is based on the fact that it was operated as a commercial building, and the city zoned it residentially at some point. Well, at some point, when zoning was initiated in 1970, it was zoned residentially, even though it was a commercial building.
And continue to operate as a commercial building because non-conforming use is grandfathered in?
Right. It operated initially, I'm assuming, in 1970. It was an existing commercial use, so it could continue as long as it continued to operate.
Okay. Commissioner Fletcher, you're listed as a presenter. Would you like to add anything?
no, I think we said everything last week, and when everybody looked at what Paul Forgy presented, it just made sense that this building stays commercial because that's the only real use that Ms. Jones will ever be able to get out of it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Any questions, Commissioner Howard?
No further question.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No questions.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No more comments.
Commissioner Warrington?
No comment.
Commissioner Langstaff?
no comment.
Commissioner Young?
No questions.
Thank you, Mr. Forgy. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the recommendation that the city initiate a rezoning application.
I make a motion to put the property back to commercial, rezone.
Okay, there's a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Commissioner Howard?
No discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No discussion.
Commissioner Warrington?
No discussion.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No discussion.
Commissioner Young?
Just for clarity, are we actually voting on the zoning, or are we
No, sir.
voting to apply?
We are initiating the application process.
Okay, that's
the
what.
city is.
Okay. No discussion.
Okay. Could we call the roll, Ms. Howard?
Ward 1?
Yes.
Ward 2?
Yes.
Ward 3?
Yes,
4?
Yes.
5?
Yes.
6?
Yes.
Mayor.
Mayor votes yes. The next item on the agenda is a request to authorize SPLOST 7 funds for the design of construction documents for the master plan for Driscoll Park. Ms. Fields, Ms. Potter, who's speaking on this?
Ms. Fields.
Let me speak first, and then Craig can jump in there. You asked for a not-to-exceed price. I did get that. I neglected to send it to you, but I did get you a not-to-exceed price, a proposal, and that revised version has them, the not-to-exceed amount would be $294,000. Mr. Mark Bond is on the line if you want to discuss with him that revised price.
Okay. Could I, good evening, Mr. Bond.
Hey, good evening.
Mr. Bond, and so as I understand, if the city elected to have Lowe's Design handle all of these, what's broken out into tasks, the price would be no more than $294. Is that correct?
No, that's correct.
Okay, and again, if the construction cost after you do your design were considerably higher than what you projected here, this $294 would still be the maximum fee. Is that correct?
That's correct, as long as everything we did was outlined within the scope.
Okay, all right.
That's correct.
Okay, and of course, if the city opted not to use Los to do one or more of these tasks, that would be a reduction from the price.
That's correct.
Okay.
Such as bidding, for
Okay.
example. Yep.
Thank you. Okay, that was a concern. Commissioner Howard, any questions for Mr. Potter or Ms. Fields or Mr. Bond?
Mr. Potter, no. He did say that if he decided to do all phases, it would be from 192 to 294,000.
No, the 192 is the design.
Design.
And, you know, the extra
Design.
fees come on if they're going to supervise the construction, which I think we need. Some of the other things, Ms. Field believes that possibly the city could, you know.
Can do some of it?
Yes, I mean, isn't that right, Ms. Field?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
But it's not specified what the city can do, right?
No, I think, well, Ms. Fields alluded to that in our work session. Some of the thing, I think, was circulating the construction documents to firms that might be willing to, are interested in the project.
Okay.
Bidding services, you know. But I think certainly we need Lowe's to come back in during construction to make sure we're getting what we paid for.
Okay. I can live with that.
Okay.
If we come back in.
Mayor Pro Tem,
No questions.
Commissioner Fletcher,
No questions.
Commissioner Warmington,
No questions.
Commissioner Langstaff,
No questions.
Commissioner Young.
No questions.
Okay, the chair would entertain a motion.
Of the resolution act for its adoption.
Mayor seconds. Any further discussion? Commissioner Howard,
No further discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Nothing further.
Commissioner Fletcher,
No questions.
Commissioner Warmington,
No questions.
Commissioner Langstaff,
No questions.
Commissioner Young.
No questions.
Could we call the roll, please?
Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Mayor.
Mayor votes yes. I'm glad we're moving forward with this. And one thing I'd like to say to Mr. Bond, Coach Driscoll's daughters, I assured them that they would be involved once we design the community center, because we certainly want to emphasize Coach Driscoll's contribution to our community. The next item on the agenda is, we voted on it earlier, and I apologize, I missed, our special call meeting was to discuss the selection process, not to hire a firm, and it was also to discuss the acceptance of this grant. We voted on it prematurely. I apologize, but I've been advised there's a resolution that goes along with this, and so we need to go through this issue again. Mr. Forgy. I promise not to ask you the same questions.
That's fine if you do. Would you like me to explain it all over again, or?
Just briefly, yes, sir.
So this is a request to approve acceptance of a grant from the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. It's a community development block grant for disaster recovery, specifically for planning. It's for $855,000. It does not require a match. It will create a database of property throughout the city. Primarily, we're looking at remaining damage from the storms we've had over the past several years, and we're going to use it to put together a resiliency plan that will have several different components. We're going to form a stakeholders group of different city and county departments and other stakeholders to help develop exactly what the survey and the database will include, and also as well the resiliency plan.
Okay, any questions? Mr. Forgy.
No question.
Mayor Pro Tem,
No questions.
Commissioner Fletcher,
No question.
Commissioner Warmington,
No questions.
Commissioner Langstaff,
No question.
Commissioner Young.
No questions.
Thank you, Ms. Voorhees.
You're welcome.
At this time, the chair would entertain a motion.
Offer the resolution, act for its adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Commissioner Howard,
No further discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Nothing further?
Commissioner Fletcher,
Nothing further.
Commissioner Warmington,
Nothing else.
Commissioner Langstaff,
Nothing further.
Commissioner Young,
Nothing further.
Mr. Talbot, could we call,
Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3, Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Mayor.
Mayor votes yes. Now we come to the consent agenda.
Move the consent agenda.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second to move? Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second on the consent agenda. Any discussion? Commissioner Howard, on any of these items?
No discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem,
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher,
No discussion.
Commissioner
None.
Warmington,
No discussion.
Commissioner Langstaff,
No discussion.
Commissioner Young.
No discussion.
Could we call the roll? No,
Ward
is it-
1,
Yes.
Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Mayor.
Mayor votes yes. Consent agenda is adopted. The next item is, well, we don't have it, but any items for the next agenda or future agenda? Commissioner Howard?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to ask Mr. Craig. And Mr. Mayor, while he's coming forward, I had a chance several days ago to visit the J.C. Oden Wellness Center, and I am concerned that the building is leaking and it's a mold and it's a safety hazard. I haven't been there today, this week because of the rain and all that, but I don't know what we can do, but I was informed that they had to put buckets down to stop the rain from coming down the wall.
I was not informed of that, but yes, sir, I will definitely have that checked out ASAP.
Okay. That's it.
Mayor Pro Tem? Thank you, Mr. Potter. Item for future agenda?
Nothing at this time.
Commissioner Fletcher?
Nothing.
Commissioner
Nothing.
Warmington?
Yeah, I have two items. With the zoning case on Fifth Avenue, it came to light that there is a resolution that authorizes the city manager to sign any and all documents involving acquisition and disposition of real property. I think this resolution was signed in 2013. So I would like to have an agenda item next month to, I guess, I don't know the language, Mr. Davis, repeal this resolution or, I guess, write another one. I just don't think it's appropriate, even with what came to light in the Fifth Avenue zoning, that all this property being disposed of or even purchased without the city commission's knowledge or approval. Is that what, is that the?
That one is limited to federally funded projects over at Community and Economic
That's
Development.
right, CDBG, home, and NSP programs. Right. Okay.
You want even those, you want agenda items on each of those sales then?
Any
Like
real
you do on-
any real property that the city
Just
of
like we
Albany.
do on 401 Pine or the Albany Herald property? Okay.
Any property.
All right, well, there's the boss right back there, so she can take that into advisement. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you,
my
Phil.
second agenda item, y'all might have seen an email from the county administrator requesting to come before us to talk about the delinquent tax. So Mr. Davis and I have had regular conversations over the last several months. One thing that I have realized every time I get a demo list from Mr. Davis, is always in our agenda packets. I've been looking at the delinquent taxes, and almost every single one of them are delinquent taxes, and most of them have never gone to auction. So here the city is, we're spending enormous amounts of money demolishing code violations, and yet the very property that we're trying to improve and demolish has never been given an opportunity to sell to the public. That was the genesis of some of the background conversations. Was I just believe that we ought to have a 100% tax auction, and the county's making decisions not to bring things to auction. We're a 1/3 party of that. The school board, the city, and the county are all thirds of the tax bill. And, I was telling Mr. Davis that even before we start going aggressively into court with these properties, we ought to be looking at the taxes. Because right now there's one on the one that we got last week, taxes haven't been paid since '09. And here we are about to take it to court for demolition. Taxes haven't been paid for 12 years. How in the world? And here the city is about to start investing money demolishing. So he offered to come and speak to us. I would love for them to come speak. Like I said, we're 1/3 party of delinquent taxes, and I think we need to get more aggressive at recovering delinquent taxes. In the business world, we call it bad debt. In the private world, you would never just not pursue people that owe you money. You find ways, and you proactively track and call, auction, whatever you got to do to recover your funds. And I believe the city is coming up really short. Right now, the number that I was told was we're in the $12 million range of delinquent taxes. $12 million. The city easily is a 25% of that. So that means $3 million of city funds are out there of taxes that are owed, that go straight to the city's budget. So with that being said, y'all saw the email. I was going to ask Mr. Carter if the commission's okay with that, to invite Mr. McCoy to come speak to us and address our concerns of tax collection. He offered to come, and I would love for them to come speak to us. So that's my future agenda item.
Okay. Mr. Carter, can we take care of that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Commissioner Langstaff?
Nothing at this time.
Ms. Young?
Yes, sir. Just to kind of reiterate my concerns over the priorities in recreation, I really do, and I will ask that the city clerk, if she could provide the information from, I guess, the previous administration's resolution or whatever vote took place to actually put Bill Miller and Henderson Gym, the funds that were allocated and budgeted for that particular project, when it was and what the vote was on that, because we need some clarity around that and why we can't seem to kind of move forward with that. Maybe that's something for the city manager to look into to see. I know we discussed some possibilities with under Ms. Subadan, and those possibilities actually sounded pretty exciting, but why we're stalled on it, I really need to know and figure that out because we got so many things that run ahead of that. So can you do that for me, Mr. Carter?
Absolutely, sir, and we're working right now to bring an agenda item back to the agenda in May, addressing those parts that you have on your mind. So we'll get something in front of you pretty quickly for that.
Okay. And the last item I have, Mr. Mayor, is something that is absolutely that should upset all of us, and this has to do with what we all know is the issue of slumlords in our community. The young lady that came to us and addressed us a couple of weeks ago, or maybe during the last session, telling us about the properties over on Gordon. After she spoke to us about her concerns, that same company went out and posted a letter, and I gave you one as well, Mr. Mayor. I gave one to Mr. Warburton, Commissioner Howard, and the city attorney, that they are actually now threatening residents for coming forward about their concerns. This is the same complex where people were having feces back up into their bathtubs. One resident reported this weekend during the storms that her ceiling fell in on her and she was actually injured. But these folks are now afraid to come forward and talk about their concerns because they're afraid this landlord is going to take action against them, and they've, based on that letter, they're at the very least guilty of intimidation. I don't know if any of the threats that they make in that letter are actually legal or you know, proper. They're quite, you know, dubious. I don't even know why, you know, any company would put that type of language on there. And I'm just asking that, you know, the press, whoever is available, needs to really look into this, because that's also residents have tried to speak out with the press, and that letter tells them specifically not to go to the press because they don't want that type of coverage. And I guess to, you know, the chief, Mr. Norman, whoever's over code enforcement, I don't know what we can do legally, but I think it's come to the point where we need to go in investigatively to that particular property and find out what's going on, because the reports are absolutely horrendous. These residents are scared. They don't want to be kicked out on the streets, especially during the pandemic. CDC has also, you know, said that we have an eviction moratorium, but in that letter, that company, you know, basically, I think uses some erroneous information to tell those residents that they're not subject to the CDC guidelines. I don't know if that's true, but they're definitely are being very problematic, and we need to take action. They're telling advocates and people that are trying to help those residents not to even come on the property. So we who have authority and the ability to come out there and see about our constituents, our residents, need to do just that and give those folks some type of relief. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Mr. Carter, I thought code enforcement was going to follow up on some of those issues.
We will, sir. We just got the transition done with Mr. Norman. We did remember the presentation that the young lady made in a previous meeting, and we will look into those and report back to the group.
Okay, thank you. I had, not to belabor the point, Commissioner Warmington, I appreciate that letter he sent out, but another thing we're not thinking about, I mean, I believe it all goes back to not having an elected tax commissioner. What is happening here is this property at 2009, if the city would have gone in and bought the property, if we can do that, it could have been, it probably could have been rehabilitated at that time. But if it's been vacant for 12 years, what kind of condition is the property in? And all that goes back to the county, some representative of the county making the decision, well, this property is not going to sell on the courthouse steps. That is impacting the city, not only financially, but it is compounding this problem of slum and blight we have. And that's what we need to be aware of, and Mr. McCoy is going to come talk to us. I mean, I think the county commission sees this as a financial issue. They're not considering the direct impact it has on the city. And, getting back to what the other issue Commissioner Warmington brought up about the resolution, the old saying, you can delegate authority, but you can't delegate responsibility. When this issue came up about the rezoning, I was afraid that I might have mechanically signed the deed to this property. I was surprised to learn that the city manager can dispose of real property. And I realize that the federal government, when funds purchase property, there are some pressure to dispose of the property, but nonetheless, the commission has to approve disposing of used vehicles, and the city is selling real property without any action being taken by the commission. I think that was an ill-advised resolution, and I certainly would support repealing it. And finally,
Mr. Mayor, on that point that you made, is that, I guess, a function of these federal grants that, because basically CDEC manages property. So if they're managing property, then I guess you would think they would have some authority to buy and sell, so to speak, without necessarily having to, come to us for every piece of property. They manage quite a bit of properties, I'm sure. So would that be part of their authority to do that under that particular program to
that's
manage
something
property?
we can discuss when it gets on the agenda, Commissioner.
Right.
I don't think so, because otherwise, why would you have needed that resolution, But if the property's owned in the name of the city, I believe the city commission ought to be involved when the property is acquired or disposed of. But lastly, any other business? Commissioner Howard? Mayor Pro Tem?
Nothing else?
Commissioner Fletcher?
Nothing at this time.
Commissioner Warburton?
Nothing else.
Commissioner Langstaff?
Nothing else.
Commissioner Young?
Nothing else.
Okay, what I would like, Mr. Davis, I serve as the chairman of the Water, Gas, and Light Board, and I've never seen these documents that sort of delineate the authority of the utility board. The $200,000 would that be an ordinance?
The utility board is section 26 of the city charter, and we discuss those items and other items. Yes, sir.
Okay, and would those be the only provisions, just what's in the city charter?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, all right, I will look at that. And there being no further business, appreciate everybody's attendance, participation, and service, and we'll be adjourned.